Okay, this is 8.3, I believe. I'm still here at the Paul Manafort trial. You can see all the news crews here. It's also CNN and Joe Jones, I think is his name, or Jonas or something like that. Voice of America, NBC News. The Economist was here. We were standing next to her a little while ago, so gave a shout out to Lady Rothschild. You know, she owns The Economist, and so I thought I'd give Linda Rothschild a little shout out for a magazine. I'm sure she's very interested in what's going on in this case. So we've been sitting there basically listening to accountants again. These are all the accountants and the CPAs and stuff that handled Paul Manafort's taxes. And that's pretty much what it's all about. His bank accounts and taxes over seemingly a relatively small amount of money for the government to be spending this much money to put on this trial. So, you know, some of the accountants now today are basically got immunity. Some of them are the CPA got immunity and required immunity to testify because they were afraid they would quote get in trouble, or you know, they didn't want any criminal charges to include them, so they were granted immunity, as was everybody else except for Paul Manafort, of course. And we're still waiting for the star witness to show up, Rick Gates, the guy they allegedly flipped, whatever you want to call it. It's a term I said before used in law enforcement. You know, to get the guy's assistant, get the other guy to flip and, you know, tell stories about the guy they have on trial. And so even the judge made a statement yesterday. It was pretty funny. He said, you know, sometimes these guys you flip, you know, they tell a little story, and sometimes they actually compose a story, which basically means kind of write their own story that makes sense for the prosecution. So this judge is very on top of things, and he's quite funny. He's obviously a very, very skilled judge and been on the bench a long time dealing with the government. And so he makes a lot of funny comments and stops people right in the middle and clarifies questions. And so that part is fascinating, but the rest of it really is just ledgers and accounts and money in Ukraine or Cyprus, and who is the signatory, and who's going to flip on who, and you know, on and on and on. The attorney for the government that's actually putting on the case, I can't remember. I think it's Askew or something like that is his last name. The guy that's handling most of the direct questioning. But Mr. Andrew Weissman is always sitting there in the back, the maestro of the show. And if anyone is curious about Mr. Andrew Weissman, you can just look up the Enron case in which he handled, and then the Supreme Court overturned 9-0 against him, and lots of admonishments and things like that regarding evidence and the way that was handled. So that whole case was overturned. So that's who Andrew Weissman is. His history as an attorney is pretty well known, and I wouldn't say it's the most positive one. But he's sitting there kind of glaring back from the back of a chair as the, you know, kind of director of the play, and he has the kind of it looks like younger lawyers are part of the Mueller team running the play. So he's the coach, and they're like the players, it looks like. So anyway, we don't know. We came here today because we had heard maybe Mr. Gates was going to show up and become a witness. So we thought we'd come back today. And then we've heard rumors that they're not going to bring him in as a witness, which I talked about yesterday. And the only reason you wouldn't want to do that is because you don't want him cross-examined. You don't want to question him and have him make all these statements and then be allowed to have him cross-examined in front of the jury. Especially if his statements aren't 100% true. And I don't know if they are or aren't, but that would be a reason why you want to, because if they're 100% true and he really kind of got the shaft and Manafort really is the real bad guy here, And why do you flip Mr. Gates and get him off for his testimony to rat out his old partner, Mr. Manafort? He should just be willing to come to the stand, tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help him God. But seems to be a little bit of a hesitation about getting him on the stand. So it's going to be very interesting, and we're continuing to watch and look at all the different these people. They go, once the court takes a break, which is right now, people sprint, literally sprint out of the building. It's up on the 9th floor, up there. They sprint down to these tents, and there's a CNN Joe Jonas, I think. He's walking right there. Sprint out. The anchors get all powdered up with makeup so they're not shiny because it's humid and hot out here. And then they do their little presentations about what's going on. We were with Voice of America earlier, chit-chatting with them. We'd given them some smoothies yesterday because you can't bring anything into the courtroom, and we were running out of time. So we got a chance to sit down, and they invited us to sit down and watch their live broadcast, which was done in Russian. And the guy that was doing the broadcast, he's a Ukrainian, now an American, but married to an American woman. But he's from Ukraine and Kiev, and he talks a lot about Ukraine to us. And then he did his broadcast in Russian, which was pretty fascinating. Which means I literally understood nothing of what they said. I think I heard a couple names of either entities, and of course I heard the name Paul Manafort and things like that. But other than that, I really had no clue about what he was discussing. But it was still fascinating, and they were nice guys. So it's interesting behind the scenes look. I did videotape that, and for some reason my phone's having a hard time uploading these videos. Don't know why that's happening. It started last night, and it's happening today, but we'll continue on and get them uploaded at some point and figure out what the problem is. So that's just the afternoon break of the Paul Manafort trial, and we'll be going back in shortly.